Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Jane C. Phillips. I'm Pam Myers with Pam Myers Social Media, and I help Jane do this every single week, every Thursday morning at 10:30 Mountain Time, and we have conversations about different subjects. And so today, Jane, as most of you know, is a paranormal investigator, a medical intuitive, and a psychic medium. And Jane just moved, still within Santa Fe, but she moved back into her tiny house. And we're going to talk about all the emotional things that you go through with a move, how stressful it is. So, good morning, Jane. Great to see you.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Last week I talked about just tiny house living a little bit, and I literally have only been living full time. I had to go back for a bit. So I've only been living full time for maybe a week and a half, with a couple days where I moved back to where I was because I had no air conditioning because I didn't have enough power. So I paid an electrician to come in on Friday. He couldn't fix it, so he had his crew come out on Monday, and lo and behold, I have air conditioning, I have heat, I have all my appliances working, and much to my surprise, I own a tiny separate building that I use as an office that I had hauled here, and that got plugged into my house. And so now the office, front porch light and inside overhead light works, plus I can run other things. If the office hadn't been able to be plugged in, then I would have used a hotspot or a battery that I have. And I didn't even know this is Tiny House Living 101, even though I had this built in 2015. I'm not like a permanent RVer. This is a house that I can move, but it's still like meant to be on one location. It's not aerodynamic for hauling around the country like Airstreams. So I didn't even know I had an outdoor plug on that side of the trailer that we could plug my office in, and my cord, my 50-foot electrical cord, just made it with maybe a foot to spare. So it's loose. Last week, after we were done talking about this move, I'm really in here. I am cooking here and doing all of that. Pam thought that she had some questions about the stress of it and how I handle it with all the tools. I have a lot of tools that I can use to kind of navigate this, but that still didn't make it easy. So,
there's still so many things that you don't predict, that you just, you can't think of everything, right? And yeah. And you're hot spotting now, right? That's why the video is kind of going dark to, just so people know. It's welcome to Internet New Mexico and rural America, right?
Right.
What we got.
So fortunately, the audio works pretty well. And as far as the video, that is one of the pieces I knew I was going to have to sort out, is how to get better internet connection. It works fine for just about everything except for videos, because the bandwidth is less. So that's why you're seeing, it's not that the sun is doing anything. I have a full light on my face and it doesn't make any difference. So, So, what kind of things do you think we should talk about?
Well, I mean, what was the most challenging aspect for you out of the whole transition with moving? I mean,
first, my house, I have not lived here for 21 months. I moved out of the ranch in a little bit more north of 40 miles north of Santa Fe. I was on a friend's 43-acre ranch, and I moved in November of 19, and then was having trouble finding a place to put the house. It just wasn't working, and had a couple false starts. And so my house was in an RV lot for 21 months. And I found when I realized I could move, I found a spot within 3 hours. And it's the same spot I tried to find last year that the gal wasn't comfortable with a tiny house on. So I found it in 3 hours
Yeah.
in middle of July, but she wasn't letting me know what my timing was. And so I wrote her on the 31st of July, and she said, you can move in tomorrow. Well, I have a big house that I can't pull, and
Right.
it's on an RV lot. Plus, I was having some repair work done inside. So until my countertop was fixed and the plumbing reinstalled, I had a 2-week wait. So luckily, the RV place was willing to tow it for me and level it.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
I got that done mid-August, but then the next piece, so that was stressful, but not terribly because I'd already been told I was going to get some help moving the house because it only had to go like 10 miles
Okay.
and not on a tricky part of the town. And it's an easy spot to load a building into. There's a lot of space to do it. But the stressful parts are arranging for the move. Is it going to be leveled, or do you have to figure that out yourself? And of course, they helped me with it. The movers did. But the other stressful part is this lady whose land I'm on agreed to let me have my office here, which is a separate building, not on wheels. And I tried to move it last year, or in 19, and couldn't find a competent mover. So it took me a little bit of time to find somebody, and then fingers crossed they could move it, and fingers crossed that they were competent. And they moved it on the 30th of August. So I basically bought a space to rent at the beginning of August and got my house on in the middle and the office on at the end. So this part, was for me the most stressful. 2 buildings. Were they really going to help me level it? Because that's a challenge. These are heavy. And both
Right.
movers were competent, capable, and I have level buildings. And then, so that in itself was great. I
Right.
also knew that I didn't have electrical that was going to be able to run everything.
Because you
And
can't just
I
plug
got
it into
here.
anything.
Go
Right.
ahead.
You can't just plug it into anything. You have to have the right amount of power to be able to
Yep.
power your whole little house. Right.
Yep. And so a lot of places that are on people's farms and more rural will have something called 30 amp, which is basically 120.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to run everything in my tiny house, I can run off a 30 amp, but I have no air conditioning or heat. And we experienced in New Mexico some really hot weeks, especially last week. And it was too much for me to be here. I couldn't work. It was too hot for me and dog. So I ended up moving back to where I'd been living for a couple days until the electricians came in on Monday. So I had that challenge. Would the landlady let me upgrade the electrical? And she's fine as long as I paid for it. So that's one of those things.
Good.
But in the end, it just turned out that we needed a better plug and upgrade the box. And in 2.5 hours, I thought we might have to trench because I wanted electricity to my office if possible, not dire, but so all of those things create stress. It's like, what's the next thing? You get the buildings moved, and then you go, oh, I don't have the right electricity. Oh, now I've got to find the electrician that was referred to me who came out and couldn't fix it.
Right.
So sent his crew in on a Monday. He came on a Friday. So, and now, so how I handle all of this for those of you who, whether it's your own move or other things that are stressful, is the way I'm wired is to not get too many things going at once because it's New Mexico and things don't always go as
quickly.
So I didn't want to like worry about the electricity until I really knew that my tiny house was going to be moved. I didn't want to worry about the electricity even further until I knew that the office building was moved. So I had 30 days of anxiety over electrical. And then I got that fixed. And I'm now, I had some trees trimmed around here. But I have several different tools, and this is how I help people who are going through their own challenging times is I tell people to not get too far ahead. If you're one of those people that can have 12 balls in the air and juggle them, and when things don't go right, you don't freak out,
Right.
then fine. But a lot of us, or a lot of the people that come to me, we get anxiety. I deal with anxiety over this. And so I've just learned to be anxious until the electrician comes, or be anxious until the building gets moved. And I use flower essences to calm my nervous system. I use lavender. I take walks in nature. I have some energy teams that are protocols that I teach people that I got from another source that I use when my anxiety just is getting the best of me and I'm going into panic.
Right.
You know, are we really going to move the office? Is it really not going to fall apart on the freeway? You know, all of those things that you think of.
Right.
So I have a lot of tools that I work with. And now what's coming up, the reason we're still on a hot spot and a darker screen is because that hasn't come to the forefront of what I need to do. So it's coming up there. The other piece that happens is once you're physically on a location, then I had to put a new bed in the loft where I sleep because I bought a smaller bed. And I'd sold the others during COVID time. And then I had a bed for my dog that I just arrived through the internet, that arrived a couple days ago, that's super cushy. I think I did a better job for her than me. This bed. She's just like, oh, this is nice. So she has her own bedroom. But that's another piece. I was waiting for that to happen. And then once that happened, then I was actually able to go through, once I had air conditioning and could work in the tiny house all day, I was able to organize the kitchen stuff that had been everywhere and move stuff that I didn't need up to the loft that's over my head. I have a loft over my head for storage and underneath my seat, as I said before. And then just yesterday, I was able to go and take the box of bathroom things that were sitting in the shower area and sort that all out. So now the shower's accessible. I still may not have hot enough water, so I may have to investigate how to turn the water heater up, but I know it's working. So, so the emotional components for me are mitigated through protocols, through flower essences, through essential oils, I'm reaching out to friends, because I'm not the only one going through tough times or more challenging times. I'm reaching out to friends every night. I'm calling one friend just to see how they're doing, which not only supports them, but supports me. So I'm not isolating. I don't feel alone. This is my home. I own it. For those of you who are curious, in 2015 dollars, it was about $66,000 plus the move. So I own it free and clear. When my dog came to the new place with me, and she didn't know where the land was, but when she walked up to the house and walked inside, and she said, "Oh, I know this."
Good.
And she's gone up the stairs to the loft, and I was worried that she wouldn't be able to. She settled into her new bedroom. And I'm using every tool that I can think of to stay calm. So that I can have the bandwidth to talk to all of you and kind of update you, because I know people are curious about this kind of a move. But it's pretty comfy for me here. Yes, I don't have a dishwasher except for with my own two hands. And
But it's
I,
only you, so that's not right. I mean,
yeah.
it's
And
actually better for the environment not to have a
right,
dishwasher. You tend not to use as much
right.
detergent.
Garbage disposal is a bag over the
Yeah.
sink. It's actually
Mhm.
a pooper bag because now I'm on 2.5 acres. I don't have to pick up as much. So,
Yeah.
so we do that. I've learned that coffee grounds can be thrown over a paper towel in a strainer and
Mhm.
then dumped, so I don't have to throw things down. My
Right.
gray water is going out onto the land, which is
Mhm.
mostly just water. It's
Right.
sometimes there's a little environmentally safe soap that goes
Mhm.
in. Um, so that's how I'm navigating it. I'm not out of the woods. I'm trying not to do too much in advance. There are little things like covering the windows with, some need curtains and some need just the film that goes straight on the glass to block,
Uh-huh.
because I've got a shed next to me that's not the most beautiful. But I now have time, mental time, that I can make a list and say, what day am I going to put those little plastic panels up so that I have it cozy inside and I don't have to look at a view.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Want to bring up something. So you could have, if you want to do, just parked in an RV park, but the downside of that is the cost, right? Because it would have simplified a lot of things, but it's can be expensive.
um, well, cost is one of the downsides. Part of it is New Mexico's expensive for RVing.
Mhm.
When I was looking at finding a spot locally in 2015, an RV spot was $750 a month, which,
Wow.
if you own a house, doesn't seem like a lot, but I could back then rent a small casita for that. And
Right.
I didn't want to spend more money or the same amount as rent as I was um, before.
Right.
Um, and the other downside is you're you have no space. And
Right.
I didn't build this tiny house to live in a transient community right next to another big
RV. Right.
RV that was going to be moving in the middle of the night. I wanted space. I wanted my dog to be safe.
Right.
And I was really fortunate um, that a girlfriend, my friend Donna, didn't really know what she was getting into. She just thought it'd be cool to have a tiny house on her property, and then we had to go through, oh, you don't have the electricity right, and figuring
Right.
out where to go on her property. But I had 5 years with help of her husband and Donna to be able to um, get acquainted
Yeah.
with tiny living. And I knew, and it was gorgeous out there, gorgeous, gorgeous. Um,
Mhm.
so I knew that I wanted to be out. I wanted to be safe. But I wanted enough space that I could walk the dog out so it's multiple. So to
Right.
answer your question, it's not just
Right.
financial. Um, if I were
Okay.
renting if I had gone to an RV park in 2015 with this, it would have been $250 a month
Wow.
versus
Yeah.
750 here. And during Balloon Fiesta, before we had all the COVID stuff, it was $1,000 a month. And
Right.
that was equal to me renting a 1,000 or 1,200 square foot house
Right.
back then. Things are way more expensive now, but um, so it's a combination. Do you want neighbors? I don't mind neighbors if um, we've got a fair amount of space around us and it's a well thought out spot. Um,
Right.
but it's tricky. And
Yeah.
they're in the United States. If you look for tiny home that are specifically for what I have, tiny home
Well,
sites,
mhm.
um, there may be 3 or 4 in the whole United States. Everything else
Wow.
is RVs. And so I was lucky. I've been lucky. I have a half maybe a block and a half away, I've got an arroyo, and in New Mexico, we have all these dry riverbeds. We call them arroyos. The water gushes through when we have rain, which is rare. But you've got all this sandy bottom that you can take your dog for miles walks. And
Right.
I've got one of those near me that
Nice.
actually goes in the direction of the Santa Fe animal shelter. And I'm going to research by car or truck how far away I really am from that. But we can take a 2 mile walk in the morning and see nobody
Mm-hmm.
and see no houses here.
Wow. That's
So
nice. Hmm? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. There are benefits. So I have one more question. I know we're going a little longer this morning, but there are a lot of people in New Mexico do saging, like they'll sage, right, their house, or they'll sage their checkbook, or a room, their desk, their office, whatever. Do you do that? Do you
yep. Okay.
recommend? Yeah.
So so one of the things when I'm in a new environment, and I haven't completed that yet, it's on my list. Um, so the question specifically was about saging and
Right.
using smoke to clear an environment. And I do that sparingly. I have many protocols. I've taught people things also. My experience with this tiny house is it stayed pretty clear. And so I have not saged it, but what I will be doing, because I've only been here a week and a half, 2 weeks by Friday, so almost 2 weeks. I will be doing a full protocol to clear the entire 2.5 acres
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
property, and I don't use sage for that. I do
Yeah.
have to protect me here. I've got 2 Genesis crystals, which are
Mm-hmm.
not stones. They are geometric circles made of copper that
Mm-hmm.
clear the energy. One of them clears about a mile, the other one clears 3 miles. I've got little witch pucks that somebody gifted to me several years ago that are made with resin and a bunch of metal in them at the
Mm-hmm.
4 corners of the house. And I lost the other 8. You do 4 corners on your bed and 4 corners of your house and 4 corners of your property. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they sort of work, but what the heck? If I have them, I'm going to use them. But I will be checking for all the other stuff I do, portals, vortices, energies that are not supportive here. I wouldn't be out here if I didn't feel it was energetically supportive, because there are
Right.
parts of Santa Fe that have you never want to be because there's too
Mm-hmm.
many things going through. We have a lot of darker energies that go through, and that doesn't feel the case here. So I will be clearing my landlady's main house as well as the entire land that I'm sitting on. So it's 2.5 acres, which will take me a couple hours to do.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so to answer more about sage, sage is helpful if your energies aren't too dark, if there's emotional energy, that sort of thing. The reason I shy a little bit away from it, especially for clients, is because it puts a smell into a property, and
Right.
only in New Mexico, I'm sure other parts, but we are so chemically sensitive here. People are really aware of mold, which we have a lot of here, and chemicals. And so when I'm working for real estate agents, I avoid anything with an odor to it. Um, but but
Mm-hmm.
but besides sage, I will use to uplift things. I will use Palo Santo. The wood itself is very uplifting and will raise the vibration of a place. And you can get the essential oil and spray it. So if
Mm-hmm.
you've used sage in your house, just meaning you've lit white sage, you've got a bowl underneath to keep the sparks from flying onto your carpet or wherever, and you go into all the corners because the same way you would be dust collects in corners, you can sage your house and get the corners. Um, that with the intention, keep the intention that you're clearing the energies out. When you've done that, if you want to raise the vibration up again, you can burn Palo Santo wood, which in Santa Fe you can get at the Arc, but you can order it online. It's very dense wood and does not burn easily, but it's a lovely, lovely smell. Or you can get the essential oil and put some distilled water with it and create a mist, which I do too.
But if you're doing
safe.
Go ahead, Jane, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you're doing professional energy clearing, though, you can do that remotely. Like you have clients all over the world where you can cleanse a school or a historical building, historical haunted hotels, that kind of thing. You can cleanse those without being anywhere near them. Right.
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 And that's why having like this location, remote location, the furthest away I've cleared a house in the Ukraine. I've done TESOL, English as a second language school in Vietnam. I've cleared some properties in Buenos Aires, in Sao Paulo, Peru.
Wow.
And I've worked in Australia also. But for people that since we kind of moved on to that allows me in this location to be able to do a lot of work all over the country. So I don't have to be local. And then people who need me to like be on site, then I can Zoom with them or use FaceTime or Skype, and we'll walk through their property because I can feel the energies and if something got missed. But
amazing.
Yeah. So what I want people to know is, if I'm not, I don't get to escape some of the anxiety and nervousness about major life changes that are going on, and but I have tools that I also teach my clients so that they can navigate PTSD or anxiety attacks, because all of that is just energy. So that's what I've used to mitigate some of the emotional stuff with me. And I'm not done yet. It's going to take a little while to get the windows so that I don't have to look at the shed next to me and figure out how far down the arroyo I can walk with the dog and where it's safe. And, am I going to run into any other critters, or other people walking their dogs? So far, I've run into somebody once in 2 weeks. So, but I have tools, and if you're in a position where life is turning things sideways for you, that's how I help as an individual, not only with the paranormal, but sometimes just clearing someone's energy and giving them a tool so that they can stop their heart arrhythmia. Some of those things that as a medical intuitive I can do. So I appreciate everybody listening for almost a half an hour today, but
right. Thank you, everybody.
Reach out to me.
Yeah. Thank you. If you need Jane's help, you can find her on janecphillips.com. She is easily reachable. You can message her, you can email her, and she's happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for your time. Sorry we went a little over time today. I'm Pam Myers. If you need help with your social media or blogging, just give me a shout. Have a good week.
Pam's the best. Take care, everyone. Next week, we'll see you, 10:30.